Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome. Today, I have such a fantastic guest, man. I am so grateful that I went to this mastermind. I took the time out of my life and decided I was going to go improve my life, and disconnected almost completely, walked out of there with about 40 text messages, 35 missed calls. And my wife was like, this feels different. It feels like you actually went off grid and you didn't, like, normally you multitask, normally you text me, but this didn't feel like that this time. It feels different. And I said, well, I'm actually coming out of this event with more clarity and more intention than I've ever had. I think probably in the last 8 years, but probably since the last time I had this much intention and this much clarity was when I was searching for my wife. That was probably the last time I was this locked in, certain, clear about the direction and what I needed to do. And that's exciting. Like, it's exciting. It's also a little bit scary and daunting that you're going to go take this step into the unknown with absolute certainty of where you're going to get to, but have no idea how everything that's going to come in your way. So it's a little terrifying, but also exciting. On this journey and at this event, I met the most incredible person. I have lots of incredible people, but Clint Riggin is somebody that I actually am really excited about, and I hope that we get to work sometime together. Maybe we get to speak on stage in a faith-based gathering, because I do have things in my heart that I want to share, and that's like in my morning vision that I create for myself every morning. One of the things is to speak in front of 100,000 people at the Georgia Dome, talking about the concept of Christ. And so if I can start building that talk and sharing it with people, I want to. So Clint Riggin, just a little bit about him. He's going to share more of his story. I don't want to take it all away from him, but he's just the most genuine person. And I hope you get to watch this because you can see his genuineness. He's also like this massive force to be reckoned with. He's absolutely sculpted by God, as I think what his shirt says. He looks amazing. More important, though, is his heart is amazing. His focus and his goal and his intention. He's been through the success window. He's now on a journey of really speaking his passion and following what he believes is true, which I'm going to let him share with you. But success looks different for everybody, and Clint is finding his success and where he's meant to be right now. And that's a beautiful part of the journey. So we're going to learn about him and then ask him the questions. How did he go about that discovery process, and how did he find his mission right now? So Clint, thank you so much for being on. Just go ahead and tell us your story. Tell us your story.
First of all, that was the most warm, heartfelt introduction I think I've ever had on any podcast I've ever been on. And I just wanted to say thank you. You are such a beautiful soul. You really are. When I heard you tell your story about your wife and how you found her, and you went over 100 dates and spent over $70,000, and it was beautiful the way that you expressed it, because you spoke about something that's so important that nobody does, which I think we'll get into later about this. So you let me know where you would like me to start, and I will.
Yeah. So start with early childhood. How did your family grow up? What was the circumstances? What were the things that led you down each area of your journey, and how'd you get here, and where are you headed?
Yeah, my childhood was, I'm not gonna say my childhood was not bad. My childhood was amazing. I grew up in a very great family. Now, the thing that I think really affected me as I went into my later years was my dad was an alcoholic from the time I was 0 to 7 years old. And he was also an alcoholic for 20 years of his life, and he became a drug and alcohol counselor for 24 years. During that time from 0 to 7, I was not seen because my dad was more consumed with a bottle than he was his son. And when I look back at that now, I started to realize the way that I am based on those positions I was put in life. And there was one time where I still remember this day, we had visitation every 2 weeks. We would go, and I went to the rest stop and I asked my mom, my dad was an hour late. And I said, Mom, where's my dad? He said, I'm sorry, Clint, he's not coming. I said, why, Mom? He's at the bar drinking. And I still remember it to this day of how that felt. And it was the feeling of not being seen. And when I wasn't seen, it then transferred into the rest of my life. And I didn't realize it was going to impact me that much, but that is how I knew how childhood trauma worked in your life, and the way that we do things, the way that we do, the way that we're actually put into this world and how we treat other people is usually based on childhood past. So that happened. I move on through life. My dad becomes sober, amazing relationship with him. Well, my parents got a divorce when I was 17, when I joined the military. I did 8 years in the Navy, and I was stationed in Washington State for 2 years. I worked on F-18s. I was an aviation structural mechanic. And then from there, I went to Hawaii, worked on MH-60 Romeos for 6 years of my life, went to Bahrain, Singapore, Thailand, Israel, went all over the world, saw how the world worked, and competed in 3 different bodybuilding competitions. My third competition was the one that really changed my life for the better and the good. I decided that I was going to take enough gear to kill somebody, and I stepped off stage with a gold medal, and 4 months later, my thyroid stopped working. When my thyroid stopped working, I lost my identity. I gained 45 pounds. I put a gun to my head, almost pulled the trigger, closed my eyes. I was right there in that moment. And then I opened my eyes. I put the gun back in the drawer, and I said, "You all right? I'm not doing this. There's a reason I'm not doing this. I don't know what it is, but I'm not doing this." I was sleeping for 18 hours a day, still tired, going to doctors that didn't know what was wrong with me, because all they knew was that my blood work was in the normal range. And this is something I really want to talk about, because doctors, I love them to death, but I swear if you were just in the normal range of anything, they will not see you for what you have. It's so hard to see that, because I know people that struggle with things like this every single day, and I know their pain, because I would get medication in 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, I would have to hope that when I get back, my blood normalized, and I was in a position where they would give me maybe some more medication, that I would feel better. So during this time, I wanted to commit suicide the whole time. All I wanted to do was kill myself. So what I needed to do was find something to numb the pain. And guess what that was, Sam? Cocaine. So I started to do one bump that turned into 2 bumps, that turned into 2 days, that turned into 3 days, that just cycled into a full addiction for 3 years. And then I got kicked out of the military. And when I got kicked out of the military, I got an honorable discharge. I found out I got an honorable discharge because 3 years afterwards, after I became sober, my admin officer at that time dropped me 3 ranks in the military. The only reason he did that is so they can push me out so fast that the drug charge wouldn't get pressed. I got kicked out of the Navy in 10 days. That was God's work right there. Didn't see it. Go to California, go and work in the club scene, go and party, got the girls, got the table, seeking validation from all these other sources. And then what comes with clubs? Drugs. So I continue to do more drugs. I get an offer from a friend of mine who I knew in Hawaii. Says, "Hey man, you want to do private security for the president? You can travel around to 26 different states for 8 months." I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." So I went and did that. And I went and did private security at all of his Trump rallies that you saw before he won. And during that time, I used that money to fuel my drugs. You would think I had a problem. Like I knew I had an addiction at this point, but I was so in tune with the circles that I was surrounding myself with, like this was normal. So then I meet a girl from Oregon who's visiting San Diego. We do Molly for 3 days, and I thought I met the love of my life. I decided, hey, I'm going to move all the way across the U.S. to Orlando, Florida. I'm going to live with you. And then guess what happens? The biggest pandemic of the world, COVID happens. When COVID hits, I find out who she really is, because you're in a room with somebody all day long. I'm trying to start a fitness company. You want to party. You're 24 years old. I think I'm 28 at this time. I was like, I can't do this. One thing led to another. I got kicked out. I slept on a couch. I built Limitless Coach in $500,000 in 12 months. Hormone replacement therapy, blood work consultations, nationwide, meal prep supplements delivered to all of my clients, all high-level clients, 7-figure entrepreneurs. And the only way that I did that is I stopped surrounding myself with people that were doing the things that I was doing before. And I cut everybody off in my life. And during that time, I went on the masterminds, the jets. I flew around. I went to all the cool places and I hung out with some really cool people. And then I lost it all. 18-hour work days for a whole year straight put me into 14 months of depression. Again, wanting to kill myself every single day. Had two notes written to my dad that said, to my mom and my stepdad that said, hey, I love you guys, but I can't continue. I had a 6-story building I wanted to jump off every single day. I watched countless hours of YouTube and played Call of Duty and Uber Eats. Like I couldn't even imagine. I still get the notifications how Uber Eats is like, hey, we miss you. I still get those almost every day. And during this time, I was then at my last part, I went to a psychiatric VA for 5 days underneath a hospital because I was at a point where I was going to commit suicide. I was going to take 150 pills. I didn't even know if they would kill me. They were just for my thyroid. I didn't even know if they'd kill me. I was just going to take them. And then I called the suicide hotline. I went to the psychiatric VA for 5 days, and that still didn't do it. But then my best friend at that time said, hey, man, I'm leaving. Thought he was going back to Spain. He said, no, I'm going on a road trip. I said, okay. July 6, 2023, I surrendered to God. Got on my hands and knees, and I said, hey, man, I know you haven't been in my life. I know you were in my life before, but I need you to take the wheel. I am done being tired. I am done trying to do this on my own. 3 days into that, I come into my mentor's house, Jonathan Conley, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'll always remember this to this day. He sees me walk in. He sees the darkness on my face. He sees what I look like. And he says, Clint, you're going to make it through this. And he prays over me. He says, God has such bigger plans for you as long as you keep leading by faith, not sight. I promise you, you'll be able to help 100, 200, 300 times the amount of people that you helped in your first business. But I need you to keep going. So I did. And we continued this road trip. I go back to California. I get baptized. And after I got baptized, I got renewed. But I tell people I got wet. Understand, guys, I was a huge player. I was a huge manipulator. I was somebody who slept with multiple women. I was not the ideal guy. I was the ideal guy that people look at today. Honestly, that's what the world we live in. But I was not the person that would represent what a godly man was. During this time, I start 2 other companies. Social media agency called Limitless Agency, learned social media contracts across the US, videographers, etc. That wasn't my purpose. Started Nexus, hosted wellness events all over San Diego. That wasn't my purpose. And then I started doing these devotionals in the morning. As I started to read the Bible more in scripture, I started doing 9 minutes, right? I would just go to a section of Proverbs, and I would read Proverbs. And it was all because of this Bible right here. And I want to explain this to you. This is a John C. Maxwell Bible. This is unlike any other Bible because if you see, it has leadership principles underneath every verse. This was given to me by Steve Weatherford when I went to California at his intensive pad that he calls it. And when I went there and I got this Bible and I started to read these devotionals, then I was like, wow, I really like reading scripture. I started waking up at 2:30 every single morning. I understand that I used to wake up at 3 o'clock, but with an alarm clock. Now I wasn't waking up with an alarm clock, and I had the fire to read scripture. I had the fire to read the Bible. 9 minutes turned into 15 minutes, turned into 30 minutes, turned into 45 minutes. Now we got 25 pages of notes that we do a devotional to 100,000 people across all social media accounts every single morning. And I met somebody during my time, Obam Bowen, who you met at the mastermind, who completely changed my life. Because I was running 4 businesses. I had 4 businesses that were running. And he told me, he says, Clint, I want you to burn them to the ground. I want you to just stop all of them. I said, wow, that's, okay, you sure? Like, you sure you want me to do this? He's like, is it your purpose? Is it your passion? Are you in alignment? Are you on assignment? And I said, no. He said, what's your assignment? I said, ministry. He said, then let's go all in. And I went all in. And now we start the Limitless Faith Tour, 10 different states, 10 different speaking engagements. Now we have 17 speaking engagements in the next 6 months. You know, I'm just so fired up for what we're doing, bringing people closer to God every single day. And my whole goal is not monetary anymore. The money will come. My goal is impact now, of how we can change the world, bringing somebody closer to God every single day, whether that's content, whether that's ministering, like we spoke about this before, we're all ministering to somebody, or just being able to be the light, be the example every day, take care of ourselves, take care of your family, put your family first. Like all of these principles that I've learned during this process, all I want to do is be a vessel for him and show the world what you can do. You can overcome the darkness and the trials and tribulations, and everything that you went through in your life is preparing you for the calling that you have in your life.
I love it. I love it. He didn't get to speak at the event fully in front of everybody, but he should have. I mean, everybody should have. The reality is, when you get to share your story, then it's really another level of experiencing it yourself. And when we call back to those experiences and experience, we get to re-experience it every time.
Yeah.
And the new experience is where a lot of the healing comes from, and the healing is an ongoing healing. It's not a one-time healing. So I want to talk a little bit about when your dad transitioned from being addicted to alcohol to helping other people.
Yeah.
What was that transition like? What age did that happen in your life, and what was that like as a witnesser of that?
So, so from 0 to 7, right, was the time where I was impacted through that. And they say from 0 to, I think it's from 0 to 5, it's the most influential years of your life. That's where you remember it all. But when he stopped drinking and he became completely sober, I came into his life and I was able to see him and I was able to hang out with him. I was able to understand who he was. And he taught me these things and these principles in life about everything that he went through that he wanted to teach me. I remember every time we had visitation, he would always do this thing, and I would always get it wrong. We would be driving back 2 hours back to his house, and he would say, "Hey, Clint, tell me who this is on the radio," and always be some old school jams. He'd be like, "Tell me who this artist is," and I would never get it right. But what's so impactful about that moment is like these small things I'll always remember about him. When I went and played DDR for 2 hours and I knew that, we only had $20 because he didn't make a lot of money, but he knew he wanted to make me happy. He knew he wanted to make me happy. So he pulled out $20 in quarters and he sat on this bench right behind the DDR and he just watched me play the whole time. I will always remember those moments. So he wasn't in my life for that time, but he came into my life in such a big way and taught me so many things about myself and about him that I always remember.
So because he was helping other people eventually overcome their addictions, you fall into your addiction, although it's not alcohol, it's still an addiction. How aware was your dad of that? And did you turn to him for that guidance? So my dad actually passed away after my last deployment. Okay. And that was right before my addiction started. So you could say that his passing away may have even impacted the addiction in some sort of way, where I didn't have him to call on. I didn't have him to speak to. I didn't even know who to speak to, so I didn't. I wasn't going to tell my mom that, "Hey, Mom, I got a problem with cocaine." Like, my mom didn't know I had a problem with cocaine for 3 years until I told her. That's just how good I could pull it off. She'd be like, "Oh, she see me partying." And then I was like, "Whoa, I got to take her off my stories. She can't see that." I would take her off all social media so she couldn't see what I was doing. But when I told her, what was so impactful was I was like, "Yeah, Mom, I was just going through this whole thing." She was like, "Clint, I still love you regardless. Like, if you did drugs, if you did not do, like, I still love you regardless. You're my son. And I'm here to see you grow. But you know what? I would have told you the same thing. I would have said, it's on you to get your life together. Like, I can't do this for you." And that's the biggest thing she taught me, was there's nobody coming to save you. And that lesson that I learned, and it might be harsh for some people to hear, is nobody's coming to save you. As a coach, we can give the tools and resources all day long, what you can do, but it's on you to take the necessary steps to take those action in your life. Yeah, absolutely. So with that contrast of nobody's coming to save you, because some people feel this is a contradictory statement. So I'm only going to bring it up just because I'm curious in your mind, how do you explain the contradiction? Because I know some people feel it's a contradiction.
Yeah.
You say in one hand that nobody's coming to save you.
Yep. Also,
you're now on a life purpose mission of preaching about the ministry of Christ, which kind of the whole message of Christ is that he's here to save you. So again, so how do you address the fact that sounds contradictory?
Yeah.
I believe I know what you mean, but I want you to address it.
Yeah. So in the temporal world we look at, right? So what do we look for help? People, right? So people, hey, you can help me do this, or you can save me from this, or you can give me the plan or the action. The only one that has the plan is him, right? So for you to surrender yourself to him, well, then he can save you. So maybe the terminology needs to be switched a little bit, how we say that, because somebody can save you. He's within you. He's just waiting on you to recognize him.
Okay. So I would say that I view Christ in my life more as a mentor than anything else.
Yeah.
So like most things in life, if you have somebody who can show you how it's done, it's much easier to accomplish it. Trying to figure something out yourself, although maybe occasionally you can figure it out, most of the time when you do figure it out, you figure it out because somebody showed you how.
Yes.
Now, there's a point at which you actually connect to what I would consider source or God, and get to the perspective of, I don't know how we all interpret the world the same way, other than we all meditated and we got to that same place of truth, that we all just see the world the same way. So there's a level there, but that at that point, it's still not saving. It's more education. It's more shifting mindset. So for me, Christ, God, is a guide to further light and knowledge and truth. But still to this day and every day, if you choose not to be mentored by him, you're never going to benefit or learn to live the way he lives. Even if you choose to be mentored by him, but you don't follow his guidance, then you still, like, yes, the atonement or the at-one-ment already happened. But if you reject the at-one-ment, then you're not at one with him. And so he will never force that on you. So he really can't save you. You have to make the decision to be part of him. He has open arms, but you have to make that decision. And so anyways, that's my opinion. Christ is not as much as a saving figure as a leading figure, as how can we become like him? Because he doesn't want us, in my opinion of Christ, which I'm having this conversation because he's preaching and I want to be on his stage a little bit. So I told him when we were going to record this podcast, we're going to get into this and get into the details here. And maybe it's semantical, maybe. But I think that each person's views has value. So when we're talking about Christ and whether he's going to save you or not, for me, I think he is a guide and he's there for us to learn how to do this, but he doesn't want us to be subject to him. Okay? He wants us to surrender to the process. He wants us to surrender to becoming. He doesn't want us to be subject to him. He wants us to be in him or equal with him. He's the guide to bring you along with him, not subject to him. Now, this gets into the conversation of honor. What does honor mean? What does obey mean? What does obeyance mean? Okay. So when you obey his commandments, obey actually has another meaning, not just of obedient action, but to do it because you honor somebody. So the act of obeyance is saying, I honor, respect you, and so I'm going to act in accordance with your will because I honor you. And so it's a different meaning than, oh, I'm just going to obey because I'm commanded to. No, I'm going to, you suggested I live a certain way. I'm going to live that way in honor of, I respect your teachings. And so then we start to live a certain way, and pretty soon we're co-creators with Christ. We're co-developers with Christ. And that's a very different. The reason I bring this up is I think the end that you have in mind matters. How you structure what you believe matters. It changes how you act. If you think you're always subject to him, then you are always going to be one of his sheep, which, hey, he loves all of his sheep. He's going to chase all of his sheep. But he would much rather have you be a shepherd. He wants to develop you into a shepherd, not maintain you as a sheep.
So good.
But if you think you're supposed to be a sheep, then you will always be a sheep because you think that's the ultimate form of your creation, when instead he's training you to be a shepherd.
Woo! That's so good, man. This is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt some people's feelings here, but I believe probably 99% of the world are sheep, right? And we're just
easily.
We're just sheep that are just roaming around, just listening to all of these things and everything we're told, and that's perfectly fine. But God loves us all. Like anything that you have been through, anything that has gone through in your life, if you've gone to jail, you've killed somebody, molested, whatever it might be, like God still loves you. This is the thing. God is in control, but he's waiting for you to take control. But he's not a remote control. Okay, you cannot push reverse and go back to your past. You cannot press future and press the forward button and go to your future. It just doesn't work that way. All we can do is act in obedience every day and press the play button. And what he wants us to do is to honor him. And they say that, God fearing, like you fear God. And I think a lot of people take this out of representation of what it is to fear God. We're not afraid of God. We're almost afraid of what God will do if we're not afraid of him, if that makes sense. Like we need to have God fearing in our life because he blesses our lives. He will continue to bless our lives. And we want to be obedient to him. And I think it really takes time with yourself and him and reading scripture and praying and see how he works in your life and seeing how these things, because testimonies of mine and yours is not going to change how people think, truly. And the reason that I do what I do is because what I do in ministry is like marketing. 8 to 12 touch points, you're going to buy a product. You see me preaching about God 8 to 12 times, you're going to start asking questions. And then you start asking questions, you don't want to know more about a God. And then you might start going to scripture. You might start reading the Bible. You might, oh, wow, this is amazing. And then you start to build your relationship with him. As you build your relationship with him, your relationships get better. Your kids, your family get better. You start to get better jobs. You start to increase your monetary value within your life. You increase everything in your life. And then you start to see how God works. Because he's always in control. That's the one thing we have to understand. I thought I had the plan for so long. Like if I still thought I had the plan, Sam, I think I should be on stages with 100,000 people right now. Truly. If I had the plan, I'd be like, man, I was like, God, I almost got mad at God. I was like, God, why am I not on these stages? You see how good I am? Why am I not? And I just had to take a step back and just be honest and be like, it's his plan, not mine. It says in the Bible, it says, we do not know what the future holds, but we know the one who holds the future, right? And whatever future you think you hold, you should think totally different of that because it might be similar. It might be off the Richter scale of what you think. Guys, I started 4 companies and never thought I would ever go into ministry, ever. And then he said, you know what, Clint? I'm going to bring somebody into your life who I brought into your life because God's within that guy. I tell you right now, Obama, oh man, he is full on faith all day long. And if God's within him, that means God's speaking to me through him. So that means I'm going to listen to him because that's God speaking to me. So that's one thing people have to understand is somebody comes into your life who is faith driven. That might be God bringing that person in your life to, hey, man, hey, you're going down this street right now. You're hitting a lot of potholes. You're falling into the potholes. You keep falling. I'm going to bring this person in. And there's another street on the other side that has a beautiful blessing on the other side, but you don't see it. And all I can do is keep bringing people, places, and things into your life until maybe you just might wake up just a little bit. That's all he can do.
Yeah, maybe. You hope he does. So yeah. I'm just feeling inspired to ask you this. So I'm going to ask you, have you ever read the Book of Mormon?
I haven't.
Okay. So, I would recommend it, honestly.
Yeah.
So I have my family, well, some of my family members, that we all grew up Mormon. Some of my family members have chosen not to continue down that description of faith, we'll call it, and gone to other either narratives or just not had faith at all, whatever, or not describe their faith in as Jesus Christ or God. We'll put it that way, because they're all very faithful people. But what I find interesting is, before I went on my 2-year mission to talk about Jesus Christ and specifically my church to Scotland and Ireland, I was in bed. It was like the day before I was going to go. And one of my brothers asked me, he's like, man, how are you going to go and talk about this if, like, what if it's not true? Like, what if all the truth claims, the truth claims about how the book got here, why it's here, who created it, all these things. What if all of those are not true? Like, how do you go and teach people this if it's not true? And I was like, well, what are my 3 favorite books ever? Like, top 3 favorite books ever. Okay. 1 is the Book of Mormon. 2 is Think and Grow Rich. And 3 is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I would be an evangelist for any one of those books, regardless of, guess what? Napoleon Hill is kind of a charlatan. He's kind of a faker, a lot of stuff, but guess what? His words, I think that just because the person in his personal life may not have been everything, that book has helped create more people to focus on their goals and their dreams than ever before. So, like, okay, just because the person wasn't perfect, was the work still that came through them still have the ability to direct people to become better and become creators. How to Win Friends, Influence People. I don't know much about Dale Carnegie, but the point is, like, that's a great book as far as understanding humans.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Book of Mormon, the reason I'm prefacing this, the Book of Mormon, it's presented as so the Bible is more of a record of the people in Middle Eastern and European areas and their interaction and their discovery of God. Yep. Okay. The Book of Mormon is, the claim is that it's a record of the people on the American continent and their discovery and interactions with God.
Wow.
And I think I'm confident that you would love the book.
Yeah.
Right. And you'd gain a lot of value from it just because of the way you view it. And I would encourage you to read it. First time you read through it, just put it on like a speed reader or something and just read it as a storybook first.
Yeah.
Just listen to it as a storybook and then go back and study it in the different areas. Just make note of the things you wanted to learn more about. But there's a section in it that's very Paul of Tarsus. And then in the Book of Mormon, there's another story called Alma the Younger. But I want to talk about this because it's something that hopefully we all get qualified to talk about. Hopefully we all get qualified to talk about. But at this point, you've had this experience. So I want to talk about your experience. And we're going to call it the conversion story of going from living a distracted, contrary way of being to having an experience, or seemingly maybe it was 1, maybe it was 2, maybe it was 3, but a very like, hey, it's either it's over or I'm going fully the other direction. Like there's a clear line in the road where I'm either going to keep doing what I've been doing and I'm going to end up dying, or I'm going to be going. And almost always in this experience, there's a period of despair. There's a period of, I would rather cease to exist. And oftentimes there's also with that feeling or with that experience, a recognition of God. And the reason I say a recognition of God is there's a recognition that that's actually not possible. It's actually, although we desire to cease to exist, everything in the Book of Mormon, the guy describes it as like, I wish that I could be buried by a mountain or lost it, like just exist nowhere. So nobody knew anything. So my soul would stop being hard up. The problem is your soul's eternal. Your soul is going to be there forever. Energy is not, it's neither created nor destroyed. It's only transferred. So even if you ended the physical misery of this body, your soul continues. And there's a realization when you get right up at that moment, there's a realization that pulling the trigger won't help. Pulling the trigger won't end the soul's suffering. It may end the physical body suffering, but it won't end the soul's suffering. And when you come to that realization, I think that that's where the conversion happens. Okay, the only way to end the suffering is to surrender. That's the only way to end the suffering is to surrender, because forcing the body to end the suffering doesn't end the soul's suffering. So anyways, there's many of these examples in scriptural history, whether it's the Quran or whether it's the Bible or the Torah, whatever it is. There's many of these experiences. Go into a little bit more detail of like, how did you know? So in almost all of these experiences as well, when you're at that depths of despair, your mind is reminded of a previous teaching that kind of informs that surrender is an option, kind of informs that prayer is an option, kind of informs that God's an option, that maybe you hadn't previously really considered or understood before. You've heard about it, but you never really thought about it or considered it as an option. You kept poo-pooing it until it's like, oh, actually, like this is the only option. Okay. So talk to me about that experience, about when you got to that edge. What was the thought, or how were you reminded that God was an option?
Yeah. So during the time I was building my business, building Limitless Coaching, I had a friend of mine who I went to middle school with, and her name is Jessica. And she told me, she's very prophetic. She has God in her life. And she said, Clint, you need to bring God in your life. I know you're building your business. You need to bring God in your life. And guess what I did? I pushed her away and I said, I will bring God into my life after I build my business. It's funny, after you say that, shortly after that, I hit that depression. It's almost like a slap in the face to God saying, hey man, I'm sending this person to you to like say like, yo, you need to bring me in your life. And then you're not going to, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shut you down real quick. I'm just going to make it so you can't think and remember anything. I'm going to make it so you gain 45 pounds. I'm going to make it so you sit sedentary in your bed for 14 hours a day. I'm going to make it so you have the devil come into your life. Now you're in your thoughts all the time about why am I here? Why is this happening to me? Because during this, I used to research and try to figure out what's going on with me. If you guys ever Googled anything, I would look up, why am I feeling this way? And it said I had cancer. I swear I went to my friends and be like, guys, I got cancer. I don't know what's going on, but I didn't have cancer. I was just depressed. What I had to realize in that position was that depression is looking in the past. So I kept asking myself, I kept saying, Clint, why am I at this position? I just built this amazing business. Why am I here? And then anxiety is looking in the future. And then I kept asking myself, where am I going to be? Where am I going to be every single day? Where am I going to be if I keep doing this? I'm going to be a loser. I'm going to be homeless. I'm not going to do anything with my life. I kept telling myself and reinforcing that in myself every single day. Every single day I woke up, I kept saying the same things. And I remember it to this day. And what I had to realize was that day I surrendered, and I didn't even realize until you just said what you said, was that was the moment that I realized that if I brought God into my life, just maybe, I might be able to have a better life. Because where I was then was I was even the day I surrendered, I was still like, I was like, God, man, if you exist, just show me the way. Just show me the path. Just show me something, please. Like, and it didn't happen overnight. I want to let you guys know that. It does not happen overnight that your life is going to be completely changed, renewing of the mind, and it's going to take time. It took almost 80 days almost until I was all the way back to California. But what it did was it reinstated the fact of when I look back of my first depression and I got out of it. And I was able to be the person that was building this company. I said, well, God, you helped me out in this place. I didn't know you that well then either, but you helped me in that position in my life. And what did I do during that time? What are the necessary steps that I took so that I started to take those steps? And if anybody's going through depression or anxiety or things that right now, these are like the easiest steps that you can take. One, it's just putting your shoes on and walking out the door. Maybe it's just putting your shoes on. That could even be a win for you, because I couldn't even shower with the lights on because I didn't want to look at myself. I would go in, I would shower, I would keep the lights off, I would brush my teeth, I would go back in, I'd shut my door, I'd lock my door. The only time I'd ever come out is to order Uber Eats, pick up the Uber Eats, come into my room, lock my door. That's it. I did not want to go outside because I didn't want anybody to see me where I was. So put your shoes on. Hey, just celebrate a win. Just like that. Bam, you got to win. Then you need to reinforce positive thoughts to yourself every day. Even if you might be in the most negative place in your life, you have to say, I say this to myself every single day. I'm beautiful, I'm blessed, I'm powerful. I'm a winner, I'm a fighter, I'm a champion, I'm an overcomer. I will win, I'll win all day. And I say that every single day to myself. Now, a lot of people think affirmations are crazy and, oh, these don't work. Well, have you done them more than one day? Have you done them every day? Have you done them for more than 7 days? Because consistency is what works. Repetition is what works. I truly believe that people feel like things don't work because they don't try them long enough to even see it work in their life. Like they don't even give it the time. So then I started to eat healthy. I started to actually follow a nutrition plan. This is when I got on my road trip. I got 10 minutes of sunlight every single day. Now understand, man, I'm pasty white. I'm literally in the sun, like burning. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. Like, what am I doing? I just got the sunlight. And then I went to the gym. I remember the first day back at the gym, man, I couldn't even lift the bar off the bench press. I was like, oh my God, who am I? But again, consistency, repetition, and we just kept going every single day. And within that, as I slowly started to renew my mind with the positive thoughts that I was telling myself, and then also just celebrating a win every day. That's one of the biggest things I can tell you guys. We don't celebrate our wins enough. And the one thing I realized too is I woke up today. This is one of the most powerful statistics I've ever heard, and I speak about it all the time, is 151,200 people die every single day. There's 1,440 minutes in a day, 500 or 105 people die every single minute. You are blessed to just wake up today. And when I started to realize that, I said, you know what? I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help myself. And my mentor told me this. He says, Clint, during this journey, I want you to make a playbook. I want you to document everything that you're doing across this journey of you coming back to you. And what this is going to do is you're going to be able to help impact so many people because now you have been through something to help other people.
Yeah, with the intention of actually sharing it, because that's a whole nother thing. If you go through this journey and you don't document it, you're going to have limited ability to share it with other people because you're not going to understand the turning points. And oftentimes when you're going through the journey, you don't understand what's happening, but it's hindsight that gives you that ability to then understand that process. And that's why I love looking at actual experiences, reading the scriptures, because a lot of these scriptures, many of them are journals. Mm-hmm. Many of them are journals from somebody. And when I was out serving my mission and my ministry, then there was my companion at the time. We had this thoughts like, these are really stories. They're journals. They're somebody's journals. How many of these people knew that their journals would be read by millions and millions of people? So some people knew, but many people, I don't know that they knew. I don't think that they knew that their journal was going to be reproduced and read by everybody. And the ones who did, they kind of wrote to whoever was reading it. But generally, when they were writing it to whoever was reading it, they were writing it to their descendants. They're writing it to their children. They're writing it to their family members. And that then it really changes how you journal. I used to journal only positively, these affirmations. And I was like, man, I just want to only have positive things in my journal because I'm rewriting my brain and I'm aware I'm rewriting my brain. I'm writing my affirmations. So I want to only say the positive things. I want to reframe everything to be positive. Okay. This is what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So for the first year and a half of my ministry, that's all I was doing. All the hardship, everything. I was like, oh, I'm so grateful for God. I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful. Even like the hardest things that happened I was all gratitude. Because I know that for me, I love to exist in gratitude. And I do feel in large part that that's a calling or a gift specifically to me from God, that I can be grateful for things. But what was fascinating is I end up start mentoring these other two people in their faith, other two missionaries that I was training, and they were struggling. So I was like, look, I struggled too. Like we all struggle at this stage, right? When it's your first like 3 months away from home and you're trying to figure out this, like, how do you profess your faith and how do you bear your testimony and how do you do it in unison with 3 other people so that it coordinates, and how do you learn the Spirit, all these things. So I'm coaching this and I was like, yeah, it's hard. Like I've missed things. I've gone through withdrawals, all of that. So then I was like, look, I'll pull up my journal and I'll read you the hard times of my mission. I pull up my journal and I try and go to read them the hard times of my mission. And guess what? There's nothing, no evidence of. There's no evidence of a struggle because I had reframed everything positively.
Wow.
And I was like, that sucks. Like, I'm grateful that I'm positive. I am grateful that I'm positive. But the evidence of a struggle is helpful. And what I love about many scriptures is they do share both. They share the evidence. They share the heart-wrenching growing. And so that informed, and I changed how I journal. Now I have a 4-part journal where it's, hey, what happened? What are the facts of what happened? Everybody just needs to know the facts, okay? Facts. Yep. How did I feel about the facts? Good, bad, ugly, everything. So now there's a clear part in my journal where I'm talking about the facts and how I felt. How did my humanness feel in that moment? And then the next question is, what might also be true? What could also be true about this experience? But what's somebody else's perspective? What's God's perspective? Maybe I'm being too harsh with this person, and I need to give them more compassion, more grace, more understanding. Maybe they're going through something that I don't know about. And so what's nice about this is it doesn't have to be true, but you get to rewrite your brain. You get to rewrite your brain to assume that everybody you talk to needs love. Everybody you talk to needs understanding. Okay. That the proper way to approach them is that they're struggling with something that they aren't telling you about. And when you start to assume that about life, then you're just more compassionate and loving. And then the last question is, why am I grateful that I had this experience? What did it teach me? How am I going to act and be different now as a result of it? And so now I created a space to get all of my human feelings down before I rewrite them into my gratitude or God feelings. Because the human feelings are crucial so that somebody can see the transformation. They can experience, okay, he does think hard things. He does experience hard things. He reframes them, but he experiences them. And that's something that I found really helpful, is asking those questions in a successive order to make sure that we're ending with, why am I grateful for this experience?
That's so good, man. Wow. Yeah, I think during my depression, I actually wrote in a journal every day. And I spoke about what that journal was. Are we still on?
Yeah.
What's going on? Sorry, hold on 1 second. You just disappeared from my
computer die?
No, you just completely disappeared. And now something else is on here. Hold on. Why is this?
I'm still here.
Yeah, I see you, but come on. There we go. Okay. So I wrote in this journal every day. And what's crazy is this journal, it's a black journal. It says the program on it. Right before I hit my depression really hard, I went to this place called The Program, and it's about bringing men together, breaking them down, building them up. And I was like, this is what I need. This is what I need to get past
what
this.
You do. And I am so grateful to the timeline where the internet exists.
Jesus
someone like
Christ,
you
I'm sorry.
Sustainability comes out
you hear that?
creates all this
Sure
content.
Oh,
I'm as obsessed with him.
Hey, we just wanted to invite him onto our show.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And to never stop learning is the great gift of being a human. Okay, so the thing that I think that you're just unreasonably good at is taking a very complex problem that maybe I'm spending too much time on the why is this happening, and you're just skipping past that, and you're.
Jeez, I'm so sorry.
Hey, don't be sorry. I don't know why it happened, but somebody needed to hear that. It's going in the podcast.
But during this time, I went to the program, thought is what I needed, came back, went straight into that depression. And I wrote down every day. I was like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. This is the things I'm going through. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to keep my focus. And I remember specifically one of those days I said, I will keep going to impact and change the lives of millions of people through this experience. And during that time, man, I didn't know what was going to happen. Truly, I just knew that I had to keep saying positive things to myself. Because if I didn't, my thoughts and my everything would just impact me in such a bigger way. But the one thing I want to tell people is like, it's okay not to be okay. We're human. Like, you know how you said like humaning, it's a real thing, guys. We have problems. I have problems. Like everybody's got problems and things that we experience every single day. Now, the difference is how we let those problems impact our lives. Do we look at a problem as a solution? Do we look as a challenge, as an opportunity for growth? Or do we look at it as like, oh, okay, well, this must be happening to me because I'm a bad person. I did something in my past. Or you can't put the perception of something happening into your life based upon there's no evidence to back it up. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we do for a lot of the things that we happen in our life. I'll give you an example. Like you're driving down the road and your tire blows out. There's two types of people. One that's going to be really pissed off and say like, and they're going to blame the world for it to happen. And the other person's going to be like, well, okay, well, I'm going to call AAA and we're going to get this fixed. And there might be a reason I'm not supposed to be on the road right now. Maybe I got into a car crash, or maybe I was supposed to go that light, or whatever it is. Like that, I'm the second person. I always know that nothing happens like out of just coincidence. It always happens for some sort of reason. I got booked to speak in Vegas, actually before this mastermind. You know, it's crazy. I would have never been at Next Gen if I got booked to speak at that place. And I got a call 3 days before I was going to go to Next Gen. And actually, it might have been a week before. And they said, hey, the venue, something happened with the venue. We're gonna cut it off. We're gonna go to a different date. Everything happens in our life for a reason, coincidence, or whatever it might be. Would have never met you, or all the amazing people there, made great relationships, and like. I think the fact of the what you just spoke about, the being the human part, people need to say it's okay. And then also the journaling part, like journal about the things that you're experiencing and don't just push past them like they're not happening, because they are. Like it's the way you feel, but then reinforce them with some positive thoughts. Okay, so this is happening to me, but you know what? This is what I'm going to do today to get over this. Like this is what I'm going to take a step into. Because if you're able to do that, then you're going to train yourself, you train your mind to think positively in negative situations.
Yep. It's true. And you got to train your mind, because if you're not going to brainwash yourself, somebody else is going to brainwash you. And for me, I just know that that's true. And so I'm committed to brainwashing myself. I started to tell my team today, since this mastermind, one of the things that I got really, really clear on is, we'll call them my core values, but I don't even know if it's my core values as much as like my operating system. Mm-hmm. What is Samuel's operating system core philosophy, and what drives everything that I do? And one of the small elements is that I believe I'm a creator of my mind. So like, what does that mean? Well, I'm the architect. So one, I get to build my mind to be whatever I want it to be, but I'm also the interior designer of my mind.
Yes.
And when I'm interior designing my mind, what types of things am I putting up there? And that's something that each of us need to be more focused on and more clear with, is what does that look like? And how are we doing that? And that's where journaling is such a powerful tool to help you, one, mind map, literally structure your mind. And then with the structure of your mind, start decorating it. Start saying, hey, when I'm in this room, this is what I want it to do. When I'm in this room, this is what I want it to do. So you have the different areas of your mind that you are creating. We are out of time today, though, but where are you going to be speaking? What are the cities for anybody who's listening, if they want to come and visit you or hear you on stage in the pastorships? I don't know if it's always going to be on a Sunday or if it's different days, but where could they get a list of that? And so maybe they can come see you when you're speaking.
Yeah, for sure. So it's going to be from Alabama to California, guys. So every state going from right now we're at Louisiana, then we're going to, I believe, in Mississippi, This isn't in order, by the way, just to let you guys know, because I don't have the list in front of me. But I know Austin, Irving, Dallas, and then from there, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Arizona. So coming back to Arizona. And then I'm also stopping in Utah as well, because Carlos Reyes' event is on the 6th and 7th. And then Steve Rosenberg's event's on the 8th and 9th. So we're going to be stopping over there. And then I got to get back by the 13th. So the thing is, I'm letting God take the wheel on this, right? The coolest thing about this is I now live my life by what I say design, not default, right? I don't fill my schedule anymore. I let God fill my schedule. You know, I knew Sam. I knew this was a divine appointment. I knew that somebody had to hear this message. I knew that we were going to put this out to the world. During this time, if I get pulled to a certain direction and you know, God says, hey man, you should come over here, or hey, this person called you, or whatever happens, that's where I'm going to be. And if you guys want to follow the journey, I'm going to put it into the, you know what? I'm going to put it on the website, livelimitlessfaith.com. And then also, if you just follow my Instagram, which is Clint_Riggin, and then on Facebook, it's Clint Riggin as well. I'm going to be posting it everywhere on there. The goal is to bring a GoPro, and then what I'm going to do is document each day. And then I'm going to have a documentary of each day that I go through this journey. And I'm going to show you, and I'm going to be in the RV, and I'm going to be talking to you, and it's going to be like a full-on documentary. Guess what? I'm going to edit it all. I'm going to do it all. I don't have a full team. I don't have any of that. And let me just tell you guys this. You do not need a lot to start. Understand that. You do not need a lot to start. You just need to start. And if you're on purpose and you're on alignment, and you're on assignment, there's nothing that will stop you from completing the vision that you have, because you guys are all limitless. Limitless stands for infinite possibilities come to those who believe in him. That's what limitless faith is. And I appreciate you, Sam. Thank you so much, man. This is an amazing podcast. You're incredible.
Hey, I appreciate it. I love what you do. I'm excited we're gonna find some time to collaborate, because I got some messages I want to share. I feel like you'll have the right stages to share those messages with the world. I'm just so grateful for you showing up the way you did. And honestly, I love seeing people's transformations. I'm happy to meet with people at any stage of their transformation. I'm always more enjoying the end, not the end stage, but like after some transformations happened. But I want to talk to people at all stages, because the questions they ask themselves matter. The questions you ask yourself, hey, how can this stop? Why am I here? Those are good questions to ask, because they drive some introspection. I think better. There's two ways to ask the question, why am I here? Why is this happening to me? From a victim mentality, or there's asking the same question, but from a creator's mentality, where you're saying, okay, what am I to gain from this experience? And so I like to say that better than why am I here? Hey, what am I supposed to gain from this experience right now? Or why is this happening to me? Rather than asking, why is this happening to me? What about this experience am I going to be able to better understand or serve somebody else? So now we're being more clear, analytical about, hey, how is this experience going to benefit some other member of God? So super excited. I'm excited to drop this. If you have any questions, reach out to Clint. He's on Instagram at Clint Riggin, right?
Clint_Riggin. And you guys can follow Clint.Riggin too, because I'm going to be deleting that other account in 30 days. I bought a bunch of bots. Don't do that. And we'll talk about it later. But
okay. Sounds good. So Clint_ or Clint dot?
Clint_Riggin. You can follow that one.
Okay. Clint_Riggin, or go to his website at
livelimitlessfaith.com.
Awesome. Hey, and we'll talk soon. If you have any other questions, please reach out to us, but we'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy Show. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.